Santa Monica Pier glowed beneath a flawless California sky. Sunlight danced off the ocean waves, gulls cried overhead, and the scent of popcorn and sugar-coated candy apples drifted through the warm air. Music spilled from street performers, mixing with the laughter of tourists and children racing toward the rides. Near the carousel, slightly removed from the crowds, sat Marissa Hart. At 19, Marissa had learned how loud the world could be and how quiet it became when you needed it most. A car accident a year earlier had stolen the use of her legs, leaving her paralyzed from the waist down. The wheelchair beneath her wasn't what hurt the most. It was the way people noticed it before they noticed her. Still, she loved the pier. The Ferris wheel turning slowly against the sky, the ocean breeze brushing her face, the feeling that life, somehow, was still moving forward, even if she now rolled instead of walked. That afternoon, she had made a promise to herself. No fear today. She had come alone, no parents hovering, no friends apologizing for stares or crowds. Just her, a lemonade she planned to buy, and the simple desire to feel like any other 19-year-old enjoying the sun. But courage can be fragile. Across the boardwalk, 3 young men cut through the crowd like noise with legs. Loud voices, sharp laughter, the kind that demanded attention. One wore a bright floral shirt stretched across his chest, tattoos snaking down his arms. The other 2 followed close behind in worn denim vests, shoving each other and laughing at jokes only they understood. Until they saw her, their laughter changed. Slower, meaner. They approached with the lazy confidence of people who had never been told no. The man in the floral shirt leaned down, his grin sharp and cruel. "Move," he said loudly. The word hit Marissa harder than any shove. Her fingers tightened around her wheels. She had heard whispers before, felt eyes on her chair, but this was different. This was public, deliberate. Before she could respond, the man laughed and swung his boot. The kick struck her wheelchair hard. The chair tipped. Marissa gasped, one hand flying out as she fought to keep herself upright. Her heart slammed against her ribs as she nearly spilled onto the wooden planks. People stopped. They looked, and then many of them looked away. That silence broke her more than the kick. The men laughed, emboldened by the lack of resistance. "Bet you can't even stand up without help," one sneered. Marissa's throat tightened. She wanted to scream, to disappear, to roll away faster than her arms would allow. But her body felt frozen, heavy with fear and humiliation. And then the pier began to tremble. Not from fear, from sound. A deep, rolling rumble echoed through the boards beneath her. Wheels, engines, powerful, steady, unmistakable. Heads turned. One motorcycle appeared at the entrance to the pier. Then another. Then another. Chrome flashed in the sunlight, leather vests, heavy boots, tattoos etched with stories and scars. Dozens of bikers rolled in, engines growling like thunder meeting the sea. The laughter stopped. The bullies stiffened. The bikers dismounted in unison, boots striking wood with purpose. They moved as one, men and women, young and old, faces set with calm fury. The crowd fell silent. They weren't yelling. They weren't running. They were coming. At the front walked a tall man with a silver beard and eyes that held storms. He stopped just feet from the bullies and folded his arms. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The bikers spread out behind him, forming a wall around Marissa, solid, protective, unbreakable. The men who had once swaggered now shrank. Their shoulders hunched, their mouths went dry. No one touched them, but the message was unmistakable. "You will not harm her." One by one the bullies backed away, muttering curses, disappearing into the crowd that no longer shielded them. The leader turned to Marissa and crouched, so his eyes met hers. "You're safe," he said gently. His voice was rough, but his kindness was unmistakable. Tears spilled freely now. Marissa nodded, unable to speak. Hands rested lightly on her chair. Thumbs lifted in quiet support. Smiles, not pitying, not forced, just human. For the first time since her accident, Marissa didn't feel broken. She felt protected. Applause broke out across the pier. Children clapped. Parents exhaled. Strangers smiled at one another, reminded of something they'd almost forgotten. Cruelty had been loud, but courage had been louder. The video hit the internet that same evening. Someone had captured everything: the kick, the silence, the roar of engines, the wall of bikers forming around a young woman in a wheelchair. By morning, it had spread everywhere. Millions of views, thousands of comments. People didn't just watch, they felt. Messages poured in from around the world. Stories of bullying, of regret, of moments when people wished they had stepped forward instead of turning away. Marissa watched it all unfold from her small bedroom, sunlight spilling through the window as notifications lit up her phone. She hadn't planned to become a symbol, but she accepted it. Invitations followed, schools asking her to speak, advocacy groups reaching out, bikers sharing messages of support. The man with the silver beard visited her again, this time without the roar of engines. "You reminded people who they're supposed to be," he told her. With time, Marissa learned something powerful. She didn't need protection because she was weak. She deserved protection because she was human. Months later, she returned to the pier, not alone, but not afraid either. She rolled beneath the Ferris wheel, lemonade in hand, smiling as strangers greeted her not with pity, but respect. And whenever someone hesitated, whenever cruelty tried to rise again, someone else stepped forward, because one day on a sunny pier by the ocean, the world remembered. Kindness protects. If this story moved you, comment, "Kindness protects." Like, share, and subscribe, because silence helps cruelty, but courage changes everything. A year later, the Santa Monica Pier looked the same. Bright lights, laughing children, the endless rhythm of waves meeting wood. But for Marissa Hart, everything felt different. She wasn't just visiting anymore. She was returning. Banners fluttered gently in the ocean breeze, strung between lampposts along the boardwalk. On them were simple words painted in warm colors: "Kindness protects." People gathered early that morning, families, tourists, locals, and a familiar group of bikers whose engines now rested quietly nearby. This time, they weren't arriving in thunder. They were here in peace. Marissa rolled forward toward the small stage set near the carousel, the same place where fear had once stolen her breath. Her hands trembled slightly on the wheels, not from fear, but from emotion. She stopped, looked out at the crowd, and took a breath. "I used to think strength meant standing on your own," she began, her voice steady but soft. "But that day, right here, I learned something else." She paused, eyes glistening. "Strength also means standing for someone." The crowd listened in silence. Marissa spoke about the moment the world had turned away, and the moment it had come back. She spoke about the bikers who didn't ask questions, who didn't wait for permission, who simply showed up. She spoke about how kindness didn't need permission to act. When she finished, the applause was overwhelming. Children stepped forward, holding drawings of motorcycles and hearts. Parents wiped tears from their eyes. Even hardened faces softened. Then the silver-bearded biker joined her on stage. "We didn't save her," he said simply. "She reminded us who we are." Behind them, dozens of bikers raised their helmets in quiet salute. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, the Ferris wheel lit up, glowing gold against the sky. Marissa rolled toward the railing and looked out at the ocean, the same ocean that had witnessed her fear, now reflecting her strength. She wasn't defined by the chair. She was defined by what she inspired. That night, as the pier shimmered with lights and laughter, Marissa smiled, not because the world had changed overnight, but because she had seen proof that it could. And somewhere, someone watching that story would choose courage instead of silence. Because kindness doesn't just protect one person. It echoes, it teaches, it lasts. If you believe one act of courage can change countless lives, share this story. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people willing to stand up.